I do. I have with me today Ross Hoffman, and we're going to have a whole big long discussion with Ross because he has really quite a story to tell. It's so neat, this being the fund drive to bring people in and the Mary's Love and all that. I think Ross can kind of fill us in pretty good on some unique interactions he's had and Mary bringing him in. So Ross, let's hear what you have to do. Start from the beginning and tell us your story if you could.
Oh boy. I came into the Catholic Church about 7 years ago.
Yeah.
Spent years at Calvary Chapel. And pretty much God led me to the historical aspect of the Catholic Church.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. What brought that even on right there?
I was just looking through, I was on the internet and I was looking at the history of martyrs. And I ended up back, I believe it was the 40 martyrs who one of the emperors took out and put them on a frozen lake and built hot tubs around them and said, if you don't reverse your conversion, we're going to leave you out there to freeze.
Now, if I could just cut in, so what brought this? Calvary Chapel had you looking at martyrs?
No, I actually went to the pastor of Calvary Chapel first, and I said, I want to learn some more about the Apostle Paul. And he told me, he goes, well, and he got this unique look on his face, almost like the blood ran out of it. And I thought to myself, there's something not quite right here. And I knew nothing about the Catholic Church.
Mm-hmm.
And he meekly told me, well, I just have the Bible.
Yeah.
And that didn't make any sense to me. So what do you mean you just have the Bible? And so I didn't know anything really about the Catholic Church. Mm-hmm. So that was one of the first seeds that was planted. I mean, it's like I want to learn something about the Apostle Paul.
His
more
life,
than just
whatever.
the Bible,
yeah.
Outside of the Bible. So the next thing that hit me was looking at Scripture, and I had an epiphany, if you will, where Christ says, I will build my church.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought to myself, what church is in Matthew? What is he talking about? I will build my church on you, Peter, and the gates of hell will not prevail against it. That led me to start looking at the history. So I end up with these martyrs. And I just had this awakening. And at the time, I was watching EWTN in my living room and Trinity Broadcasting Network in my own room. And
okay, so fill me in right there. I'm just going to weed this. How did you go? So what's this Trinity?
Trinity Broadcasting Network has your big born-again, John Hagee, the big born-again movement.
Okay. And then what? How did we get?
So I'm watching both of them. There's like this battle going on.
Oh man!
And before I know it, I'm watching Father Pacwa in the Holy Land pray the Rosary, do the Rosary.
And you are messing with fire.
Here comes this historical aspect, and I'm seeing Father Pacwa in these tombs with Mary, and Mary on the side of just these ancient hit me.
Mm-hmm.
And with the martyrs, I started going, holy cow, what is going on here? And I was drawn to it. I thought, the Catholic Church? The Catholic Church?
Very
you have
cool.
to be kidding me.
Yeah.
The Catholic Church? And I saw the ancient aspect. And that was the first thing that really, really intrigued me about the church. So the next step of this is quite interesting. I haven't had a drink for 6 years.
Good for you.
As a chronic street-level drug addict and alcoholic.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty much institutionalized my whole life. Prisons, jails, the whole works. So I was at an AA meeting downtown Nampa, and I was at a bookstore next door, and guess who I stumbled into? Padre Pio.
Oh, no. Oh, no.
So now you bring Padre Pio into this.
Yeah.
And I was in the back of the bookstore, and I find these big articles about Padre Pio, and I just got back from San Giovanni.
Yeah.
Last year I went to a shrine.
Oh, very cool.
Stuff. Amazing.
Mm-hmm.
So I started reading about Padre Pio, and that was the first time I started seeing everything connect.
Yeah.
And then the EWTN, the TBN wars going on, EWTN started to win out.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when I got into Mother Angelica.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, just the full power of the evangelical movement with saints like Padre Pio, the history, that stuff all started wrapping around me.
That really calls to mind, really, that shows you how important the the word network is, and how with even here what we're doing with the radio, how important this is in this valley and those that can reach. And so on that, I want to remind everybody that this is our pledge drive, and we're trying to get some. And when I went out to get you, they were running around in there working. So there's people in there answering phones, and we need to keep them busy. And that number to call is 344-4774 here in Boise. And we want to get St. Paul's from Nampa calling in here and get some supports. And we need to get those Knights of Columbus calling in and getting the support. They're such a phenomenal group here, and they need to support this. So,
and maybe to help us out, as we have a parishioner, a very generous parishioner from St. Paul's, who is willing to match the next $500 dollar for dollar. Wow, so 500 becomes 1,000 if we can do that in the next 28 minutes. If we can get $500 in the next 28 minutes, this St. Paul's parishioner is going to match that with another $500, and that will get you to your goal, and we can ring that big old golden bell.
Darn right. So let's do that. So, Ross, that's what our major goal here is. In telling your story, you've got to show that it was through this public communications, this radio and TV, that we got the word out.
Now, Ross, you'd mentioned Father Mitch Packwood. You know that he's coming in June.
I didn't know that.
Okay, well, we have to make sure that we get you set up with Father Mitch so you can tell him that story, because he's going to be here as part of our 5th anniversary banquet. We're going to be out at Coolwater Creek just south of Meridian, and then the very next day he's going to be doing a seminar at St. Mark's. So we'll have to make sure that...
well, Father Mitch just met a very dynamic individual that I met last year, Steve Dawson, who is the founder of St. Paul Street Evangelization.
Oh, yeah, now we're kind of working our way.
I want to give a plug to Lucy Stam. She'll probably kick me next time I see her because I can't pronounce her last name right. Lucy is an amazing street evangelist that shows up at the Grove. I'm the Boise chapter founder. Steve came from Portland to come and hook up with me. His ministry now is worldwide. He was just on this rock, and Father Packwood and stuff, and he has an incredible testimony. What we're doing and what Lucy does every Sunday at 2:00. So if you're a Catholic, listen to this. She goes down to the Grove, where the hockey game is and stuff. You know where the fountain is right there. Exactly. She's down at the Grove at Sunday at 2:00, and she has rosaries she passes out, and she shares the Catholic faith.
Oh, very cool. But now we're jumping ahead. Okay. This is your story. Right. You went up to chapter 10, and we're only on chapter 2.
Thank you. Anyway,
I'm going to keep
getting back to Padre Pio. Back to Padre Pio. I saw the supernatural side of the Catholic Church. Of course, I saw Mary. And Mary did not scare me at all. As a fundamentalist convert, Mary, a lot of times people have a problem with Mary. I went from there, jumped over and started looking at Fatima. And Fatima made perfect sense to me.
You're messing with all the
I'm in the hot. I don't mess around, Bill. I'm an ex-drug addict.
I know.
I mean, I went to
you needed the real stuff.
The Catholic Church is the only thing that got me sober.
It's phenomenal.
The Catholic Church is the only thing that got me clean. Nothing else worked.
Now, okay, so when did you decide to come into the church, take the
I actually went to St. Paul's, in old St. Paul's, and I sat about 3 rows back, and I didn't connect. I was still researching the church. Okay, but then I was in and out of treatment programs. I remember being over in an inpatient over in Caldwell, and in the ward I was at, because I was diagnosed with everything under the sun.
It's only natural.
So I saw a woman there, a patient. She had EWTN on, and she's up there, and Mother Angelica's talking, and she's kissing the TV and touching the TV. She loves the Catholic faith. So what ended up happening with me is I came in with all of this destruction in my soul. I came in after the sacrament of confession.
Exactly.
That's what I came
phenomenal
for.
Gift,
I came for that. I knew.
That's almost.
I was sitting in an AA meeting with a Baptist, and he kept telling me, I have to get to confession. And he kept asking me a bunch of questions about it, and I hadn't become a Catholic yet. So that was what prompted me to come in. And I remember when it hit me, I jumped in my car, and I raced out to RCIA. I looked at the nearest church, and it was Father Flores. Yeah. And I raced in, and I ran right in, and I sat down in RCIA, and I said, I'm here. And it was just that simple. I
don't find that hard to believe.
And no, I mean, it's beautiful. It totally made sense to me. And from there, I got involved with Facebook, and we've got a big Facebook ministry.
Yeah. Okay, so we're jumping. I want to hold it because then that's when I started getting involved with you. You came into the church and you were on fire.
Yeah, you're
on fire.
Young brother. Your young brother I went to high school with him.
Yeah.
Okay, he's been
that was our relationship
on the receiving end of numerous blackouts with me. So, so it's interesting to have Joel is in the past and now Bill in my future at Lundstrom. Anyway, so I just caught fire and I understood and started understanding the liturgy and started understanding the sacrifice of the Mass, and I immediately went back and started reading the Catholic Controversy by Saint de Sales. And started reading Carl Keating stuff, and it just I opened myself up to it.
So much out there, isn't there?
I have to put a plug in for this new amazing convert that just came into the church, this mega church leader, Ulf Ekman. I was actually chatting in private with Scott Hahn a couple nights ago on Facebook, and Scott's amazing. I was telling him, you need to go meet Ulf Ekman, and see if you can do something with him. And Scott replied to me very humbly. He said, in big letters, BTW. By the way, a few years ago, Ulf and his wife came and stayed with me for a week, and that was part of his process. Well, Ulf Ekman is the Billy Graham of Austria. I believe it's, is it Austria? Austria. No, Swedish mega church leader. He's huge, and his story is amazing. He's in the Holy Land, and God gave him a word of knowledge. He said, look at this olive tree over here. Does it look dead? And Ulf basically said, yes, Lord, it does. And this is a charismatic mega church pastor. So he goes, God says, go over and take a look at this olive tree closely. And he goes over and there's buds all over it. And he was just moved incredibly. And the Lord showed him that the Catholic Church is this ancient church.
Sure.
Anyway, this is probably one of the biggest mega church pastors right now that just came into the church, heavily respected by everybody. So there is an incredible move going on right now.
I think there always has been.
There always has been, but it's just now. Scott Hahn's got 155,000 likes on his Facebook page. I mean, he's huge. And right now, it is the dynamics involved with the evangelization. Steve Dawson, with his St. Paul Street ministry, has 80,000 likes. He's got 100 chapters all over the world now. It's really exciting.
But I think, then in looking back, though, in your study and journey with the church, it all started with 12, and look what they did. Look what happened. I mean, that was a street ministry if there ever was. We're studying it right now in this days of Easter with the Acts of the Apostle. A total street ministry.
Bill, you've told me so many times you love to go to daily Mass. And I have a business, so it's hard for me to go every day. But the beauty of it is the Scripture just unfolds the whole journey.
It does.
When I started realizing that the liturgy of the Word and the liturgy of the Eucharist fit together so well, I mean, here you are. Here's the readings from Luke. Let's say the readings from Luke, where Christ is at the Transfiguration and he's heading for Jerusalem. You're in the liturgy. You're going along with the whole gospel, and at the same time, you're participating in the Eucharist. Christ's divine sacrifice on the altar. I mean that is what's the beauty of the Catholic Church is when you understand Christ really instituted his divine sacrifice on the altar and then launched it into his church. It's incredible.
Yeah, but what's so unique about the Catholic Church in that sense is it is founded by Christ. So Christ is going to definitely found something that is truly God-founded. So it's going to take man forever to discover everything he's put in it. And we're still discovering it. To this day, we're discovering new insights into the depth of the Mass and the depth of the structure of the Mass. And that's what I want to bring with you now more. So on your journey, I think the next thing we did was bring your mom in, didn't you?
I did.
Yeah, that's kind of something.
And that was part of it, too, because once the battle was going on between Trinity Broadcasting Network and EWTN, and Trinity Broadcasting Network went bye-bye, and EWTN's now taking its place. Now things get really interesting because my dad wanted to come into the church. These are lifelong Lutherans. And my dad kept telling me, I want to come into the church. So my dad had he's 90 years old. He had massive damage to his lungs from smoking, but it never manifested itself. And all of a sudden, he couldn't breathe one night. We took him to the hospital, found out he was going to die in about 2 days. Miraculously, I took my brown scapular at the time, tied it on his ankle, had an amazing miracle happen with the brown scapular, which I'll tell you about in a minute. But a friend of mine, a brother of mine in Christ, Richard Mercer, you know Richard Mercer?
Yeah, very well.
He got on the phone, and out of nowhere, this was on a Sunday, he was able to get a priest. It was one of the priests that was at Our Lady of the Valley, and he admitted, "This is so strange that I got your call. I was just outside of the church," and he appeared pretty much out of nowhere. Was there right at the exact time when my Lutheran dad, who wanted to come into the church, got the last rites.
Amazing.
So he got the last rites. My dad passed on, and I went back to retrieve my scapular, like what I'm wearing here. But the sight of Mary, it was a new scapular like this, was totally blank. It's totally gone. So to me, that was a message that we're praying the Divine Mercy for him. I had hundreds of Catholics praying the Divine Mercy chaplet. So my mom saw all that, and I told my mom, I said, "Mom, your Lutheran pastor doesn't have the last rites." I showed it to her in the Bible, and she just started going, "Wow, this is crazy. What's happening here?" So lo and behold, my mother came into the church about 2.5 years ago. She sits up in the front with me every Sunday, and she's got her Magnificat. And this is where this whole process of Catholic radio and EWTN and whatnot plays such an important role, because she was able to hear Father Pacwa. I would love to have my mom meet Father Pacwa, because my mom loves Father Pacwa. I mean, there's just the huge impact that the guys like this are making on, priests like this are making, because, Mother Angelica had it all figured out. So yeah, she came into the church 2.5 years ago, and she's told me so many times, as she's discerning the Mass and learning the Mass, that there's just so much depth in the Catholic Church. We're both.
It's infinite. The depth is infinite.
Yeah, we're both quite disappointed with Martin Luther, by the way. But All right.
We met the $500 match, so well done. Thank you very much, St. Paul parishioners.
Thank you very much.
We needed $500. We got it, and now we're going to match that with another $500. Yes. Thank you so much. We have some folks we want to thank. Dave Wilper from Silver City called to say hello to Father Jerry and asked Father Jerry if he's made his pledge yet. We will have to ask Father Jerry whether or not he has made his pledge yet.
Dave, I believe I brought that in just this morning. And I'll be seeing you shortly with the steps of the church, if I'm not mistaken.
There you go. Paul and Barbie, they have challenged the Retrovi group out at St. Paul's in Nampa. We've had a couple of anonymous donations from St. Paul parishioners. Pamela from Nampa and Mike from Nampa. They have also called in their pledge of support to 344-4774. 344-4774. And over in the Magic Valley, you're going to want to pay attention to this number, 490-7754. And this is why, because the St. Mark's Council of Knights are now leading in the Golden Spatula Challenge. They are $30 ahead of the Immaculate Conception Knights out there in Buell. $30 difference between the Magic Valley and the Treasure Valley. So I think we're going to have quite the battle going on between the two valleys and these two incredible councils. But Holy Apostles, you're about $1,100 behind. So you might want to pick up the phone and call 344-4774, because right now $30 separates St. Mark's here in Boise and Immaculate Conception out there in Buell. 344-4774 in Boise, and over in the Magic Valley, 490-7754. And this just popped up. We have another $500 challenge from St. Paul's.
Right.
We have 15 minutes, folks, 15 minutes to raise $500, and a generous St. Paul's parishioner is going to match that dollar for dollar. But it takes your phone call, 344-4774, 344-4774, $500 in the next 15 minutes, and some very generous St. Paul's parishioner is going to match that dollar for dollar. Don't wait. Make the phone call now, 344-4774.
Thank you, Brian. Thank you, Nampa. Thank you very much, St. Paul's.
You know, I have to put another plug in here for Val Allen, too. She's pretty much partners with Lucy in the street ministry. Father Jerry was gracious enough to let us start doing a door-to-door campaign over at St. Paul's in Nampa, which you've seen. This Easter Triduum, we actually went out, and we're having so much fun with it. We took 250 Ileana, I can't pronounce her last name. God bless you, Ileana. She made all these amazing paper bags that we took out on a Lent door-to-door campaign. Next Lent, and this is what we're going to do for our Easter Triduum campaign. What we're going to do next year for Lent, you know, our little black books.
Yeah, excellent.
We're going to take about 500 of those, and we're going to go pass them out to all of the neighbors around our parish. And we're going to ask them, you know, to participate with us if they like. Stay with us with Lent. We're Catholics. We're fun. We're down the street. We're not going to get you. You know, we're not in the Whore of Babylon anyway.
No.
And we're gonna fire up our neighborhoods. And there is such a serious move of converts coming into the church right now that are fired up, that have been delivered and changed, and all of this stuff, that Val wanted me to make sure that I get the word out that this what we're doing down at the Grove is a lot of fun. Get a hold of Val Allen if you know her, or Lucy, or get a hold of myself. My number's 899-6422. Give me a call if you want. And I've watched Lucy in action. You might say, I don't know what to do. I don't know what to say. I've seen Lucy just recite the creed.
Yeah.
So powerful, so beautiful. Somebody will say, well, what do you Catholics believe? And out comes Lucy with the creed. And I just thought, that's brilliant. I mean, that is absolutely brilliant. And we pass out rosaries and stuff, and it's just, it's a lot of fun.
You know, Ross, that's neat what you're doing with this black book. You might explain a little bit. It's a book we use it, most of the Catholic churches offer them now. And it's just a guidebook for the 40 days of Lent.
Yeah.
And it was interesting this year, in the public newspaper, articles were written that more and more Christians are looking to participate in a Lenten service.
Absolutely.
40 days of Lent. So what a neat opportunity that is for you to get out and introduce this schedule.
Well, you know what comes next after that is the Magnificat. We'll go past Magnificats out.
Well, it's so beautiful because you just mess with fire. There's no question about it.
It's just like All Fear, this Swedish megachurch pastor. It took him 10 years, but what he did is he made the mistake of stepping into the church and looking at it. Scott Hahn. They opened up and they stepped into the church and they took a look at the incredible power of the Mass being the conduit where heaven and earth come together.
Truly.
And Christ's divine sacrifice is there on the altar. And it fits everything. 1 Corinthians, a cup of blessing that we bless, is it not a communion with the blood of Christ? I mean, what's Paul talking about there? I mean, the cup of blessing, is it not a participation in the blood of Christ? Many of you are sick and dying because you're not discerning the body, you know? I mean, it's all Catholic. Paul's as Catholic as they get. I mean, so it changed my life.
Yeah, it did. I was aware of that, just like I said, from my interaction with you, from coming into the church and seeing you, and seeing how on fire you were, and how you're just not slowed down at all, which is great.
What a work on
what a neat thing.
Charity, Bill.
Yeah,
I mean,
we all have
it's
to work
charity
on charity.
stuff.
It is.
It's really hard to have people say you worship idols and all of that stuff. It's difficult.
But that's just a typical understanding and a misunderstanding, and
that's
it's
changing.
So easy.
That's changing.
You learn. I've had that my whole life, and the best thing is to say it always with love.
Yeah, I know.
It disarms them totally. Just say it with love.
You're absolutely right. Without the love, and that comes through the sacraments, and that takes time.
You know, and I always figured that it was so cool that Peter, in the Garden of Gethsemane, what's Peter do? He pulls out a sword.
I know that, and that makes me feel good.
Yeah, and I'm always was that way. That was my apologetics, too. I always carried a big sword around. I'll just cut that ear off.
Peter got it wrong.
He did get it
right at the end, and we're going
Christ showed him. So what's Christ do? He heals the man. And you think that didn't...
Bill, you should have been a priest.
No, I shouldn't have been.
I'd love to talk to you in confession. You'd fix me right up.
Yeah, you bet. You don't want my kind of fix, Ross. You don't want you're just getting away from my kind of fix. You found the Lord.
The penance. I'd be out there carrying the... Ross, pick up that number.
No. That's so good. So this ministry, that's what the culmination of our talk here, I think, is such a neat thing where you are actually going out and spreading the word. What a unique gift.
It's Lucy is truly amazing. Mm-hmm. She's down there in the winter. She's down there every Sunday, mm-hmm. and this is why Father Pacwa and On This Rock and EWTN, they're looking at some big publishers now have approached Steve. Steve came down to Portland because he saw me on fire on Facebook, I believe. Mm-hmm. But my point is the whole evangelical movement is really exploding. That has Pope John Paul, Saint John Paul.
Right.
It's exciting. I think we're running down on time. 2 minutes?
Yeah, we got about 2 minutes.
I don't know if I can come up with anything more.
I think you probably can find that. We can talk a little bit about the saints. How did the saints interact in your life? Of all things, look at this.
We'll explore ways to respectfully deal with the differences that divide us. Everyone says they want to have a great marriage and family and personal life. Well, the theology of the body reveals how